Good evening to everyone out there, and hello, welcome to Getting It Done, a podcast about music, education, and life lessons. I'm your host, Tim Rausenberger, and this is episode 339, Improving Virtual Distance Learning. A happy Friday evening to everyone out there. This episode, I think, is one of those episodes that's just going to evolve as we go along, and we're just going to go with the chat that we have here. I want to just quickly go through some things about the podcast so you understand how it works, and then we're going to get right into it here, because this is a very, very big topic: virtual distance learning. It's been something that has been around for quite some time, but I think the cold hard reality is now settling in for a lot of people. And the big questions that I have, and hopefully you have: how can we improve it? What is working? What is not working? What do you like? What do you dislike? There are so many different angles we can go with this particular podcast this evening. So make sure to reach out to all your friends, give a nice shout out to them, let them know about this unbelievable opportunity to be able to express your mind. What do you like? What do you not like? If you're a teacher, what are you going to be able to share from your perspective? What has it been like, and what have you gone through? As a parent, as a family member, what has it been like being cooped up in a lot of situations in a home for long periods of time, and how is this whole virtual online learning thing working out for you and for your family and for, honestly, everyone? So we're going to get immediately, before I do any shout outs into the lobby tonight, I want to immediately get into 5 common problems, 5 things that we have in what we call educational learning. If you want to think about it as being electronic learning, e-learning, however you want to think about it, it's completely and totally up to you. So here are some of the issues that we are encountering with virtual education. First of all, number 1, technical issues. This is a gigantic problem. It's not small, it is huge, and it's something that we need to talk about tonight. Number 2, I like to think of it as technology literacy. How well do you know your tablet? How well do you know your phone? How do you know your computer? How well do you understand all of the capabilities? The average American only understands 8% of what their smartphone is capable of providing. That is a statistic. 8% of Americans, in terms of their smartphones, only understand 8%. That means that 92% of the phone's capabilities are simply not being used. And that's just the phone. We're not talking about a tablet. We're not talking about any type of computer. We're simply talking about phones, something that most people, teenagers and up, almost everyone has one. Number 3, time management. This is shocking. You would think, how could this possibly be a problem? You're at home. You're not having to travel now. You're able to do everything in the comfort of your own home. How could time management possibly be an issue? Number 4, adaptability. That's a biggie. That is a biggie just in general with all forms of education, and especially when it comes to technology, and especially when we're dealing with the situation that we have all around the world today. And number five is self motivation. Now, what's funny is if you think about all five of these particular issues, a lot of them are tied in to many other components of our life. For instance, if I look at this list of these five items, think about the average person who wants to lose weight. Okay, you want to go on to a diet. Well, you're probably not dealing too much with technical issues unless it's your scale. Okay, you're probably not dealing too much with technology literacy in terms of losing weight unless you're using like one of those, Fitbit types of devices, and you're having problems syncing it to your phone. And some of you don't even know what the word syncing is, and that's totally fine. But the final three are all ones that are strictly related to dieting, making the time, so your time management related to it, adaptability, you have to change something about yourself. And the biggest problem, of course, related to dieting is self motivation. So if we just take one of the most common problems across the world, and especially across the United States, those three particular items all apply to dieting, to managing your weight. And of course, we can tie those into exercising. We can tie those into so many different types of regimens. So I invite you, take a look at those five different things that I've outlined in terms of problems that people are going to have with virtual learning. Think about if any of those apply to you in any way. But if you're out there in wherever you are, uh, let me know that you're out there. Say hello, and just feel free to say what it is that's on your minds. Anything that has to do with online virtual education. So, before I get to those five particular topics that I'm going to be addressing this evening, let me share with you what I have personally encountered over the past 2 weeks. Now, we were told across the state of New Jersey that our school districts, many of the school districts, were going to be closing down. And there were emergency preparations, and in some cases, just simply preparations, not emergency, because there were some school districts that were very, very well prepared, and some not so much, for all different types of reasons that I'm not going to get into. The bottom line is that every single school district has their own way of handling different types of situations. And some of them strictly adhere to things that the county agrees on, that the state agrees on, that there's a national standard in place. But there are plenty of things associated with this type of preparation where the school districts can really vary. And hello to Sharon. So let's first take a look at that. You have to keep in mind that every single school district across the United States had to adapt, and quickly. Things had to be done very, very quickly. And there are a lot of people who didn't understand that and still don't completely understand that. And that's just a cold, hard reality. We are in a society where we want things to happen really, really fast, really, really fast. We want things to happen so, so fast. And it's got to happen quick. And I got to have it now. I got to have it now. I got to have it now. It doesn't work that way if you want to do it correctly. It just doesn't. And preparation is very, very important. School districts that were ready to go, they were just able to enact the plan. I am very, very proud to say I work in one of those school districts. And that's not what this is about. by any stretch, but I can certainly say that my school district did a stellar job of being able to make the transition and do it very, very quickly because, quite frankly, they were prepared. There are a lot of other school districts that were also very, very well prepared and ready to rock and roll right away. The things we don't know as school districts, as employees of school districts, in my case, being a teacher, the students, the parents, administrators, here's what we don't know. How is it going to work? And what I mean by that is not how are we going to get it out there? No. How are we going to get the materials out there? No. The question is, how is everyone going to respond? So let me take you through my first 10 days. Day one, the big day. And there's always a lot of nervous energy. Think about your first day anywhere. First day at a job, first day at school, first day meeting someone new. You're with a significant other and you're meeting their family for the first time. Think about all of the different emotions that are going through your entire being. And that's what is going through everybody's mind. How is this first day going to work? So the first day came and I saw so many different people doing so many different things. Right in front of me, in front of my eyes, behind the scenes. I had, I have to tell you, the first day I must have had 30 tabs up. And I know my students, they kid with me a lot because because I always have tons of tabs up on the screen and it drives them completely crazy, especially the ones that are a little bit OCD about all the different tabs that I have up. But I had so many tabs up there because I had two different types of programs that we were using. One was Google Classroom, which of course is extremely popular all around the world. And then the other one that our school district uses is Flipgrid. And here's the interesting uh, thing just for me with what I provided to my students on an everyday basis. I did not need to know anything prior to virtual learning. I didn't need to know anything about Flipgrid. Guess what? I had to get a crash course and quick. The great thing was that Flipgrid was very, very easy to learn. And I also had people right there who were there on that first day to be able to support me. Oh, this is how you do this, and this is how the children respond. And it has been amazing. It's been a lot of work, but it has been amazing. So we followed a schedule on our first day, and a lot of other school districts did the same thing. They followed the student's schedule and went throughout the day. Teachers were interacting. If you were going with the Google Classroom model, you were sending messages out to students. Some of the messages were out to the entire class, some of them were individual messages. So I'm watching all of this transpire. And it was no different than what you would expect, I think, mid-school year from any type of situation. You are going to have students in any given classroom who are absolutely 100% on board, coming ready to learn. Then you're going to have students who are also there, ready to learn, but there might be some other things that might be going on. Might be daydreaming a little bit at some points. They may lose a little bit of focus. They may have some other things on their mind. Then you have some other students who go to school and they may enjoy it at times, may not enjoy some components as much because they not enjoying so much the academic point of things or even the non-academic. They are much into the social interaction. Social interaction is a very, very, it's a vital component of being in any school. I don't care who you are, where you go. I don't care what the situation. Social interaction is key between from teacher to student, from student to student, and all those different types of responses. Absolutely critical. And as Esther just typed, distraction. But you know what? It all depends on how you look at it. It all depends on how you look at the social interaction. And the question is the distraction good? Is the distraction bad? See, I don't think that every time that a distraction is such a bad thing. I mean, let's be honest. As you're watching me right now, okay, what is something that you might be focusing on? As things are going on, you may have looked down at your phone. You might be using your phone to watch me right now. Did you start to look at this? Are you wondering if it's actually a brick wall or if it's actually a backdrop? It is actually a backdrop. Uh, you may look at the colors. You may just find yourself lost in the colors. You may notice that my hair is a little bit different tonight. You may notice how high or how low the microphone is. You may wonder about that. Okay. The call I just got from the mayor. Well, thank you. Interesting. You know what? You're better than me. I haven't gotten any call from the mayor. No call from the mayor for me. I haven't gotten any call from anybody important at all. Matter of fact, I haven't gotten any phone calls from anybody today. So you already have one up on me, Esther. I got to tell you that. But, you know, we get distracted by many different types of things. Now, in terms of the 5 items that I have listed here, the self-motivation would be where the distraction comes in. And when I think about that first day, when I think about the first day that I was teaching, to be perfectly honest with you, there were moments where just staring at a screen the entire time, that was just on my first day, I was like, whoa, gotta step away for a minute here. And just to take a break and just to take a screen break for like 2 or 3 minutes. So when I would have, if I had a prep period, that's a period off for teachers where they're able to get ready for their next task they have to do. I just step away for a little while and just went out of my house to go to get a little bit of fresh air. You know, in a school, I wouldn't even be able to do that. So that's actually a bonus because in schools, when you have your prep period, you're not supposed to be leaving your building. So I actually was able to go out. I was able to just get some fresh air for a few minutes and do a little bit of walking around my yard. And then I came back in, felt a lot better. Trying to get the circulation going in the room. That was something I didn't do on the first day. And I think the biggest challenge, I think by far, had to do with adapting to the technology. Yes, I know how Google Classroom works. Yes, I was starting to understand how Flipgrid was working. The problem was that how am I going to now make this so it feels like a nice steady flow for me, for my students? I am not used to doing this. None of us are. We're not used to doing this where that you have a schedule and you're adhering to the schedule and you're expected to be on schedule. I, as a professional, need to follow my schedule throughout the day. I need to be available for my students throughout the day. And there were many means that we received as teachers to be able to provide that. Okay. So, for instance, Esther mentioned Zoom, and this is something that I'm actually going to address tonight. Zoom is a very, very, very big thing in terms of the pluses, in terms of the minuses. And Esther, you are a gem when it comes to making different types of suggestions with things. So please feel free, have at it of the things that you've enjoyed, the things that you have not enjoyed, because there's nothing better than for people in the world to be able to hear from a student who, and I can say in her case, is unbelievably passionate about school, passionate about learning, and really, to be perfectly honest, is really the how can I say it? I don't want to. It's not perfect student as in she's a perfect person. That's not it. She's a perfect person to listen to because you can learn so much. We as parents, we as teachers, we in school districts can learn from listening to others, more specifically from students. I believe me, I got a lecture earlier today from an 8-year-old. I got a very, very stern lecture, and it was like, yes, ma'am. Okay, what you said is totally, absolutely true, and I will definitely follow up and do that. I had a 10-year-old who said, "Hey, Mr. R, you should think about doing the Zoom class like this." That's the adaptability. Okay, that's number 4. That is listening to other people. That's making adjustments on the fly. And successful people, not just teachers, successful people make those adaptations. And the ones who don't. So, let's go through all 5 of these issues relating to what I have experienced last 2 weeks, because I talked a little bit about my first day and what that was like. And then I'm also going to relate them to online learning in general, virtual learning, because, and I'm absolutely more than qualified to speak about this because I earned my Master of Music Education degree through online education. And it was a great experience, but I have to explain how I had to make a lot of changes relating specifically to all 5 of those items, and how you can hopefully take those types of changes that I made, speak at all about the coronavirus, about COVID-19. The cold, hard reality is that just about everywhere, not everywhere, is basically in a lockdown of sorts. Schools in most places across the country are shut down. And the question is, how long are they going to be shut down for? Absolutely 100%. The places that are shut down will be shut down for at least another 2 weeks. That's not information that's coming from me. That's information that's just readily available. So a lot of places have been in virtual instruction for at least a week, most 2 weeks, and we still have at least another 2 weeks ahead of us, and who knows what's going to happen beyond there. So it is important that we take some of these into account and start applying them in some way so we can have a better overall experience for all involved. Number 1, technical issues. My friends, that is something that in many ways falls on into your hands. It is unacceptable and irresponsible for anyone to have technical issues that could have been resolved in advance. You are obviously not responsible for technical issues that are beyond your control. One of the things, I'll give you a classic example related to this podcast. I need to have a very, very strong internet connection in order to give you a feed, in order to give you a live stream that is as fast as humanly possible. And there's still a delay. After I say this sentence, there's going to be a delay. There's going to be a delay before you receive that information. How do I know this? Because I have actually watched, I did this early on when I started my podcast. I watched to see what the delay was. And by the way, that is a huge reason why musical rehearsals of 2 people or more do not work on a complete musical disaster, sounds like. And to learn from that, if you want to use that as an educational tool, good. And I'm not being sarcastic. Do that. Show your students. You see, this is what happens when our rhythms are not lining up. This is what it sounds like. And you can record it and you can play it back so they can hear it. There's nothing wrong with that. We'll get to that in a moment. I have that on my list here. Okay. Taken care of in advance. And there are so many people who don't do that. There's no excuse for it. I am a teacher. I have to be available for my students. And obviously, it's part of my job. It's how I'm receiving my paycheck because I have to be available for my students. That is what I was told that I need to do. And those are the expectations for the other teachers as well. That's what we're there for. We're there to help our students. The first thing that I did was I called my cell phone carrier. Happens to be Verizon. I'm not giving them any free plugs or anything like that because what I had to get did cost me a little bit of money. It wasn't much, but it did cost me a little bit. I called them up. I explained to them the entire situation. When I told them that I was a teacher, told them everything else, they actually gave me a discount. Okay, this is what they did. I'm not going to go into the cost or anything. The bottom line is this: I expanded my mobile hotspot. I made the mobile hotspot longer and last longer. So and I actually doubled the amount that I had available on my phone. What does that mean? What is a mobile hotspot? There are people out there that don't even know what that term means. It What does it mean? It means that I can turn my phone into Wi-Fi where you can tap into the the Wi-Fi on my phone to be able to get a connection. I don't understand why people wouldn't do that. I don't get it. And the way that you need to look at it, and I don't like people who will say, "Well, I don't have the money." Let me tell you something. This is the response I always have for people that say I don't have the money. If you are employed and what you are doing is related in some way to your job, then you need to find the money. We're not talking about $500 here. We're not talking about $2,000. The engine in your car did not just blow up. We're talking about an expense that is very, very small. And even if you have to do it for the short term, you're a teacher. You're being paid $40,000 a year, 60,000 a year, 90,000 a year, whatever the amount is that you're being paid as a teacher. I'm strictly speaking to the teachers here. It is your responsibility to be equipped for this type of situation. One of the questions we were given in my district, does everybody have the technology that you need? Well, I have to be perfectly honest with you. My district is fantastic for asking that question, but quite frankly, they didn't have to ask us. That's an expectation. Any professional should be ready to go. And there were people I spoke to during my first week of virtual instruction who were not prepared. And these were teachers, and they were people, and they were not people in my school district. There were people in other districts that I know, and they were saying, "Oh, this my internet is failing me here, and it's not working here." Hey, don't complain to me. I don't want to hear about it. Do you think that other people don't have the problems that you have? The question I asked them right away: Did you do this? No. Did you do this? No. Did you do this? No. I went through a whole list of different things. On Tuesday, I started to notice that my wireless connection, my Wi-Fi in my house was not great. Do you know what I did? I'm going to tell you exactly what I did. I went downstairs, I unplugged my modem, and I unplugged the router. Okay, what are those two devices? Of course, the things that allow us to have Wi-Fi in the house. I unplugged them. I reset them. It was a pain in the neck. It was not enjoyable. It took me about 3 hours to get everything completely reconnected, all of my computers. Guess what? My Wi-Fi is working faster than ever now. Did you think to do that? Or are you going to wait until the reactive? I reacted because I'm saying my Wi-Fi was being a little bit weird. So I said, I can't have this going on with my podcast. I certainly can't have it going on when I'm teaching. I got to be there for my students. I can't have my Wi-Fi going out. I don't want to be sucking up all the mobile hotspot on my phone. So technical issues, got to take care of them. If you have an issue with your computer's slowing down, it might have to do with your cache. It might have to do with your cookies. If you don't know what those things are, you need to learn. You need to learn what those things are. You need to know your technology that might be related to any technical issues you have. Because let me tell you this much. If you are taking classes online with a college, and this is absolute truth right here. If you're taking classes online with a college, they are able to, they have every, and they're not interested in hearing, oh, well, I was not able to be connected or something like that, when they can clearly see that you are connected to their server. That's not going to work, and that's not going to fly when you say why your assignment was late. In high school right now, you're thinking about taking online courses. If you are someone who's in college and now you are doing virtual learning, they can track everything, my friends, all of it. And the same thing with school districts. School districts know when their employees are signed on and when they're signed off. They know the same thing about students. Exact same information. Number 2, technology literacy. It is unacceptable. If you are in education and you are, I'll say at this point, a middle school student. I'll be generous to the elementary folks out there. A student, not teacher. If you're a middle school student or a high school student, you need to at least understand how Google Docs works. If you don't understand the ins and outs of Google Docs, you need to stop whatever other nonsense you're doing right now, whatever silliness on social media or whatever it is that might be taking up your time, and educate yourself. Google Docs is such a powerful, powerful app. It is so fantastic. I think a lot of you know this. When you're on Google Docs, you can share the document with another person. I, as your teacher, can be right there. I can be helping you right there. Yeah, it's pretty weird, a little bit creepy that you can see somebody else changing things in your document. Here's what I've done for people before. With people that I've mentored before, I've actually helped them with cover letters, helped them with resumes, helped them with essays that they need to write for various types of topics right there on the screen. I'm able to do it. The power of technology now. But if you don't know Google Docs, I don't know what to tell you. But that's what you're doing this weekend. That's what you need to do this weekend. Not wait until Monday and then blame everything on someone else because you decided to take a Netflix break. It's wrong. You can't do that. So, parents, here's the thing I have to say to parents. I'm going to certainly stand up for the kids with this one. It's not fair if you have expectations for your children to do their work online and you don't know how to use a technology yourself. Now, you as a parent should be held accountable for that. Absolutely. Because guess what? The teachers are not there sitting next to the child now. The teachers are not there in front. You're probably getting a little bit of an idea of what it's like if you were homeschooling someone. Well, there's only so much that we can do as a school system. We can only do so much. And nothing is worse than a parent saying, well, I don't know how to do that. My answer, learn. That's it. Learn. Learn just like you're expecting your child to learn. Learn in the same type of way that teachers had to learn something. So it's your responsibility as a parent. That's quite honestly, they could loosely be thought of as being almost like neglect if you're not taking care of your responsibilities and duties as a parent. And right now, more than ever, you're needed. We need your help. We all need your help. And everybody's got to chip in. And I'll tell you right now, Oh my goodness, I have all the admiration in the world for those of you out there who are parent teacher slash teacher parents. My goodness, that I cannot even fathom. If you are a teacher with children of your own, where you need to teach, and then the children are there as well. There are teachers that don't even understand how to do that. And we'll get to that, has to do with 3 and 4. But technology literacy is critical. So let's go into number 3, time management. I want you to think for a moment of any break that you have, whether it's you're on vacation. And what I mean by on vacation, I'm not talking about being on a beach somewhere. I'm talking that you are now not working. Okay, not that you're unemployed, but you have taken vacation time from work. Okay, you are on a spring break, you're off for the summer, whatever the case may be. This applies to anyone. This applies to students, this applies to teachers, this applies to families. In terms of time management, it is so challenging when your schedule is not structured. It is so difficult when your schedule is not structured, because we expect to go one thing at a time throughout the course of the day. And when you don't have a schedule in front of you, you'll find yourself waking up later. You'll find yourself not being as active. You'll find your eating habits may not be the best. You'll find yourself very proud to say, I do not own Netflix and I'm never going to own Netflix just for that reason. It's not that I hate Netflix, it's that I don't want to ever find myself on a binge. If I want to binge, I go on YouTube. I have more than enough videos that keep me a very, very happy person. So what I want to do right now is in terms of time management, I want to manage my time right now at the 39-minute mark, and I want to specifically address some of the items that are in the chat here. And I see Mary has joined me as well. So hello to Mary, and hello to of course to Esther. Earlier on, I know that Sharon was here, and I know Edward is here. I know that people have gone in and out. I know that my internet has certainly had its issues in my area, because all of us have we have all compromised the fiber, which is what powers our internet. So the speeds are really, really moving around. But I want to address a few different things. Okay, so first of all, Esther has a slew of tremendous items here, and I want to talk about them and go through them in depth, and I appreciate it. Mary and anyone else who might still be out there, if you have things that you want to chime in and mention, things that you're happy with, uh, Zoom, I'm going to address. That is going to be a separate thing. But it is important to note that Esther, as a student, says teachers are using this app to have class, and she hates it. That's spoken right there from a student. That's her prerogative. That's her perspective. She is allowed to feel that way. Okay, for whatever reason, she does not enjoy. Spoken very truly by particular students. They may have specific classes they're very, very excited to do. And now that they're at home, and now that they don't have a teacher right in front of them, and now that they're not forced to move from one location to another in a building, because of that, it can cause people, anyone of any age, to say, you know what? I don't want to do that. And I don't have anybody forcing me to do that right now. No one is forcing me. If I'm right here and I want to go over to that room, I'm going to go over to that room, and I don't have anything to worry about. Now, if you did that in a classroom, It all depends on the situation that you're in. Okay. Then there are other classes that keep that really keep me bored and just doing the work to get it done. Now, I give Esther a lot of credit for that. There's no fun in that involved in that at all. If you know that it's going to be work you have to do and you're choosing not to do it right now, that's not a good idea because you're going to have to do it at some point anyway. And some districts have chosen to push forward. Other districts are doing a lot of review of recent lessons. That's the trend that I've seen in a lot of school districts with people I've spoken to, where they've taken lessons that were recently taught and then adapted them to virtual learning. So if you're a student and you're doing review work, I'm sorry, but this should not be that difficult for you to do. Okay. Um, Okay, she certainly talks about the fact that she's talking about Union City, where she lives, and the fact that we have, this particular pandemic, unfortunately, is reaching so many different types of areas, and I don't want to get into that because, again, I made it a thing to not get into that. Um, and then Esther even mentioned she's getting distracted by the imaginary eyebrows that I have on myself. Okay. So I'm sorry for the imaginary eyebrows. I'll just kind of cover these up right now. Hopefully they're not going to bother you too much. Okay, so technology literacy and technical issues, two very, very big things, but quite honestly, a lot of those things can be resolved. One final thing related to time always haunt you. Every single time. If I have been burned once, I've been burned 1,000 times with that darn copy machine just crashing and not working at school. I can't tell you how many times I've needed to make like one copy of one thing. I go to put it down, I go to hit the button to start, and what happens? Paper jam. Paper jam. Machine about to explode. I mean, it's like, and of course, what kind of training did anybody receive in college about repairing copiers? None. We received no copy machine training. There was not, copy machine repair 204. It was not a course offered in any college anywhere. It should be on all of the different types of models that are out there. Holy moly. And by the way, if there's a profession you should get into, be a copy person, repair person type thinger dinger. Yeah, you should be one of those because those people are always going to be employed everywhere. Okay, so time management. As I was talking about with time management, you have so much freedom now. You are free to do this work in so many different ways whenever you want. If you're learning from a Google Classroom model, unless the teacher is holding specific timed meetings that you're expected to attend, if a teacher is not doing that, you have tons of flexibility as to when you want to do your assignments, when you want to take your tests, or however it is that you're learning. It's actually difficult when you're not given a structure. So if you are going to look into long-term, any type of virtual education, online learning, classes, courses, whether it be through this experience or with college, you have to be disciplined with your time management. And here's the way that I have always approached it. When I was, especially if I had timed tests online, and I'm going to tell you why. Let's say an assignment is due at midnight. My laptop is going to freeze. The power is going to go out. I'm going to lose my internet. And let me tell you something. There was thankfully only one time that this happened throughout all of the time, the full year that I was taking it in on time. And I had to actually send an email through my phone to my professor, and unfortunately, the professor was forgiving, but not so much. I still got docked points. Now, there are some other professors that might be a little more understanding, and I think with this situation, I think a lot of teachers and administrations are very understanding. But you've got to use your time wisely. Obviously, if you're here tonight, you're spending your time wisely. Why? Because you're educating yourself on this very, very real situation. And it's not going away. That's why I had plans to do a different episode tonight. I decided to scrap those plans because this is something that's so relevant right now. I had so many people say, you should do a podcast on this. And hence, that's why I'm doing it. Adapt or perish. You must adapt. You have to be willing to adapt to any situation at any given time. And the people who adapt will always be successful. The people who adapt will always be successful. Maybe not right now. Maybe sometimes might be a little bit tough. But the way you need to approach situations and times like these, you need to look at opportunity. What types of opportunities do you have out there? I know that there are opportunities now for virtual education, for online learning. Am I jumping? Kind of get my berry juice here and just kind of sit back and relax and see what happens. I'm seeing a lot of companies that are offering things for free right now. I think that's brilliant. It's a great marketing tool. Offer it for free. And then when things return to some sense of normal, then you can say, well, the free time has now been lifted. And now, if you're interested, time to pony up the money. And if you realize that this particular thing, whatever it is, the product or service is being offered is worth it, you're going to pay the money for it. You have to adapt. You're learning right now, or in some cases, not learning. You cannot be treating this entire period right now like it's a giant vacation for your brain to just go on vacation. I cannot begin to tell you, and it's been disappointing. I have to be perfectly honest with you. I understand that this is a very, very difficult time. I understand that this is very challenging for people. Uh, it's very emotional for a lot of people. Here's the thing I hope that you'll learn. I really do. If this is to the point where you are completely overwhelmed, I mean, you are overwhelmed, like you just can't take it. It's time to step back. What excuse do you have? Take a step back. You probably, I am sure, have picked up some extra time in your life. I know that I have picked up a minimum 2 hours a day from a commute that I do not have to take back and forth to school. I am so grateful for that. And believe me, I make sure in my brain that those 2 hours, whatever those 2 hours, I have total and complete what in addition to what I normally do during the day, I have 2 additional hours of laser-like focus as if I was driving a car. And I apply that to what I'm doing. What I don't do, hope all you want, this is the way that things are right now. And if you just sit around and if you have a good cry about it one day, no problem. If you're crying about it for 10 days, problem. Definitely problem. And it's something that I strongly in the appropriate people. It may be friends, it may be family members, but it might have to be a professional. And believe me, there are wonderful, wonderful people out there that are willing to help you with whatever it is. but adapting is the way of life. People check in with me, and I appreciate it. I'm glad that so many people have asked me, "How Tim, how are you doing?" Honestly, I'm fine. I really am fine. Adapting to the virtual thing, there are things about it that I enjoy that I don't enjoy, but I've adapted fine. I mean, this is where I live. That was a choice that I made, and I kind of kept some of these things in mind down the road. I live in an area where my internet is actually very, very fast. I live in an area where we do have some space, and my neighbors know that we all need to stay away from each other. With the common sense in the area where I live is quite good. It really is. People get it and people understand. There are a lot of places and a lot of people that they don't get it. And that's one of the reasons that we're in the situation that we are right now, not having anything to do with any illnesses, situations. Because here's what I'm seeing. What I am seeing is a whole lot of people in this world who are not changing. They won't change at all. And I had a very, very stern and heartfelt conversation with someone about this last week because this person was complaining and whining. And I had to be very forthright as a friend, as someone that I really care about that person, and say to them, listen, I'm going to be really straightforward with you. You need to address these issues. And if you don't start adapting, then these things are not going to get any better. Facts. Bottom line, not opinion. Those are straight up facts. And they come from experience, a lot of experience. Been there, done that. Let's talk about number 5. Toughie. Not easy for any of us. And it's tied in a lot of ways to time management, but it can be very, very tough if you feel that you're in a rut. If you feel like you're in a situation where you just can't get out. And then this happens, and you're like, now what? In terms of the virtual education. So being motivated, here's what my advice. My advice would be to make a schedule. You need to make a schedule and say, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And this is where the online education, being at home and not being in school. Or if you're a teacher, finding that time. Will tell you something, my goodness. Uh last let's see, earlier this week, I got burnt out. I mean, I was spending so much time working on everything. And it was like all of a sudden I realized I've been doing this for 14 hours. I didn't even get outside. And when I'm going to assign these things and when I'm going to have these sessions, and am I overextending myself? This is a big question that I had from a lot of different people. Am I doing too much? Am I not doing enough? Only you truly know the answer to that, and you need to figure it out. Now, let's talk about Zoom for a minute. So I knew about Zoom because I know at least a half dozen people who are executives, or they are high ranked individuals in various companies across the United States, and some of them are very prolific businesses. I am aware that Zoom is one of the ways that you can video conference with others. I am aware that, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and if I'm wrong, so be it, but I know that there was a 40-minute restriction on Zoom meetings. I'm not sure if that was just for basic users, or I don't even know if that applied for people who had professional uh, uh, a professional account, I should say. I'm not sure what the situation was, but I do know this much. I do know that Zoom, the company, lifted those restrictions. So now, because someone asked me, they said, "Oh my goodness, how?" Because I had two classes today. One was 55 minutes long, and one was 90 minutes long. And I'm very happy to say that I did not choose those lengths. The initial lengths of both classes were 45 minutes. Um, I'll just say that my students were really enjoying the classes. I think that that's probably the best way of putting it. I did one class at 12 and I did one at 1 o'clock. And the one at 12 o'clock, I ran a little bit longer. And I'm going to tell you quite honestly, it was very evident that the students really missed seeing each other and being able to see each other on the screen. Zoom, of course, when you have Zoom, you are able to essentially take over the screen if you are a host. You can allow students to write on the screen. You can select specific people that you want to write, or you can have them all write at the same time. So I put up just a big whiteboard for them on the screen, and some of them went completely crazy. I mean, really, really crazy. And then you can even kind of put your cursor over certain names where you can actually see who it was that actually wrote it. I mean, it's a powerful app. And now, what I didn't know about Zoom, and I learned today, did not was not aware of this, but you can actually show videos on Zoom. I did not know that. And what I mean more specifically is you can show videos to the point where the videos are being shown and they can see the video, they can hear the video, and whoever the host is, that person with that screen, entire classroom environment. It was awesome because in my case, I was doing a lesson about Louis Armstrong. Holy moly, game changer. Once I found out about that, up until that point, uh, most of the things that we had done about Louis Armstrong, it was just me talking. I was able to demonstrate. I had my trumpet over here, so I took my trumpet out. I was explaining a little bit about jazz, and then what a wonderful world. I was doing a little bit of not the greatest Louis Armstrong singing, but um, so I was doing this for the students, and then I said, let me just try something. It was just one of those types of things. And students are great. I love that about students in general. Students are always understanding and they're forgiving if you have a total epic fail. Just I think you doing it in front of them. I mean, yeah, obviously it would have been nice to have done it in advance, but it was one of those types of things. I said, "You know what? Let me just try it. Let me see if what happens. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work." So I pulled up uh, a video, and when I pulled up the video on YouTube, I played it, and I just said to them, I was able to see their heads, and I said to them, "Can you give me a thumbs up if you can see and hear the video?" And they all said yes. Then I realized they were able to hear me. And I went crazy, and I was so excited, and they could see in my face how excited I was, and it changed the entire lesson, changed the whole dynamic of everything. And I showed them several videos of Louis Armstrong, one that was in black and white, one that was in color, and it was wonderful. And they were able to get so much more out of the lesson. I think that if you're going to have a Zoom lesson, you need to be creative. If you just speak the entire time in a Zoom lesson and you're not giving any visual aids at all, no visual aids of any kind, you're going to lose people. And I don't want to hear that you have a chat. Let me tell you something. When I do my podcasts, I opt to do live podcasts, but I have by YouTube. There are things that I can do and things that I can't. I just can't do them during live streaming. So the tr- the trade-off with with that instead of me being able to do those things in pre-recorded videos is I am able to interact here. I am able to hear you. I am able to get some feedback. And there are some times where the chat tonight, it happens to be not one of those nights, and it is what it is. That was a risk that I took with having a Friday night podcast, but I did want to get this content out to you immediately. So even, and that's always what my hope is. But Zoom, you have to run these meetings through Zoom. Boy, you better start rethinking some things, because if you're just speaking like this the entire time into the screen, you're losing people. I mean, I've heard already about the people that have the preloaded apps or thing. They're watching everything you're doing. And the reality of the situation is they left the room a half hour ago and they're making a sandwich downstairs or whatever the case may be, and they're not listening to anything that's going on because you're not even acknowledging them. So one of the things that I did when I was doing my classroom, when I was going through the entire virtual experience with them, I was calling names out. I was asking people to participate. I was mentioning things and not embarrassing them. I would make a comment. Hey, I see your dog in the background. Hey, I noticed there's a small person next to you. Who is that small person? And give them that opportunity. No different than my classroom. It's exactly the same as what I would do in my classroom. I had one moment where I had a student and her little sister was in the room. I didn't know. They have a very, very big age gap. I had no idea they were sisters because I teach in a huge school, but I have both of them and they're in two different classes, and neither of them mentioned that they acts the way that she does. And it was a special moment. And by the way, something I never would have known if not for virtual education. But you need to adapt. That's the bottom line. That's what this episode is about more than anything. And I hope that these types of perspectives are helping you out. Hearing the perspective from a student, hearing the perspectives from an educator, okay, hearing the pros, hearing the cons, and focusing on all those different things. Now, there's one more thing that I have to address before I get off of here. And that has to do with virtual music rehearsals. So, prior to most of the country going to online education, I have done many types of video sessions with groups and with. Here's the thing that I realized very quickly. There is always a lag. Esther, please ask your question. I'll be more than happy. I'll stop the story and I'll answer that question for you right away. Go for it. So I realized that there was always a delay. I mean, I noticed that forget about anything having to do with music. There was always a delay. There's a delay right now. One of the things that I'm even seeing in the chat, sometimes I'm freezing. I'm only hoping that this is not killing my live stream. We're going to find out later on. And I hope that the live stream is not a pixelated nightmare, or else I have to delete the entire thing, which would be a shame. Okay. So, multi-arts and all that. Excellent question. And you know what? This speaks right there to music students and music instructors, music directors. What are we going to do? That's a very, very difficult question to answer on many different fronts. First of all, the idea of, life is not fair and things happen. And right now, you need to look at it that every single group everywhere on earth is on hiatus. Do you think people that do this and make money for a living, do you think they're happy that right now they're not able to do their jobs? How about the orchestras that are probably having to think about just folding up altogether. So I really think, and this is, I'm speaking directly to so self-absorbed and selfish to say, well, but what's going to happen with this and what's going to happen? What's going to happen is that it's not going to happen for right now. And you need to understand that. Now, if you adapt, you'll find new ways of being able to connect with your students. Now, your students and what I'm doing, okay, so to answer Esther's question, I am still, in my mind, going forward as if I still have performances going on this year. Obviously, if I have a performance scheduled for next week, it's not happening. But I'm thinking in my mind, it's being rescheduled. When? I don't know. But that's how I'm thinking. And what I need to do is I need to connect with my students to make sure that I am providing the resources available, whatever they may be, whether I have to make videos, whether I need to have some type of session, whether it's a Zoom session or something along those lines where I'm able to interact with the students or student one on one to be able to help him or her with whatever their individual needs are. So I know that a lot of people are doing that, and I give so much credit. I give so much credit to those of you out there who are instrumental directors and choral directors and the ones that are spending the time one on one. God bless you. Truly, you're spending the time to listen to students and provide feedback to them. Fantastic. I think the only thing I caution for no other reason than just to mentally recover. I stopped my Zoom session today, not because I wasn't enjoying it. It was unbelievable. The questions I was getting for 90 minutes. And they were all having to do with the assignment, but they also had to do with things we were doing in chorus and school and questions that they had so many different angles. But guess what? You just get to the point because we are professionals and we're human beings. You get tired. It gets very, very tiring. Okay. It's not the same type of tired you would get if you're cleaning a house. It's not the same type of tired you would get if you are doing manual labor outside. It's a different type of tired. And being in front of a monitor like this after a while, oh my goodness. So, Esther, what I would say to music students is you have to find the discipline to continue to work very, very hard independently. And if you have questions or you're having problems with motivation or anything like that, reach out to your teachers, ask their teachers for help. And I hope that those people will respond to you. I think the one thing that students need to keep in mind and families need to keep in mind, teachers have no obligation unless it's in their contract, unless it's stated otherwise, unless you know something that I am not aware of, and that applies to your situation. But teachers have obligations to specific hours and specific times to work with your children. We are not, as one of my friends said to me a long time ago, we are not 7-Elevens. We are not 24-hour convenience stores. That's not what teachers are. Okay? We're not like that. We're not open for business. Would you like it if I showed up to your house at 9 o'clock at night and started asking you questions related to your job? Well, teachers don't enjoy that either. So you have to understand there have to be some boundaries. And I know with everything going on right now with virtual education, that is not something that's been addressed in a lot of ways. So Esther, here you go. Here is the mind-blowing thing for you. Teachers sign a contract? You bet we do. We absolutely, every single teacher, every single person who is employed at least by a school district signs a contract. That's a fact. Is it like a business? Yeah, it sounds like a business because guess what? It's a business. Education is a business. And I know it's not sometimes, and I'm glad that Esther said that because guess what? There are some people that go into school, people that, and I'm not talking about the kids, I'm talking about the employees that work there that think it's like a big fun time factory or something. And there, some people are straight up unprofessional. It's a business and you have to adhere to specific rules just like a business. We all have contracts. In my contract, I have things that I am and I am not allowed to say. I am aware of this at all times. There's sensitive topics in a school system. I am someone who is a public employee in the state of New Jersey. And the bottom line is there are certain things that I absolutely do not feel comfortable discussing and that I, as an employee, could get in trouble for. So, between me and that person, whatever I choose to discuss. And by the way, that extends to social media and your personal social media. My educator friends who don't seem to understand that at times. Okay. You cannot post students online. You shouldn't be doing that, period. I don't care whether you have permission or you don't. You should not be posting videos of your students. If you do post them, you should be blurring out their faces. Doesn't matter how many ounces of or types of permission that you've been able to acquire. So, in terms of virtual rehearsals, it's very simple. And make it known at the 1 hour, 19-minute mark of this video. They do not work. They don't work, period. There are already articles out there that say they don't work. If you want to be that noble person and you want to be that person that's going to come to the rescue and you are going to have all of your singers record their parts individually and then send them to you as separate files. And then you are going to, with the magic of technology, take all 50 singers and put them all together and have your final creation. That's fine. But you also know deep down, it's not real. It isn't. It's new, but it's not real. It's artificially engineered. And one of the greatest things about music is producing it live. One of the greatest things about dance, it's so much different when you're there. When you're there, when you're in the moment. I'm not even just talking about a performance, I'm talking about just rehearsals. Because we know as musicians, you have more than enough rehearsals out there that you've had in your career that have been better than some of the performances. Sometimes the performances have been much worse than a rehearsal you had 2 weeks ago for whatever reason. I certainly had it happen in my career. A lot of times it's been related to nerves and the all the adrenaline that's associated with live performances. But this idea of trying to do virtual band, virtual orchestra, virtual chorus, it doesn't work. Now, here's a lesson you can do, and I give you for them. And then you can have a discussion about why it's important to follow the conductor. You can have an important discussion about blending and balancing. You can have an important discussion about why this doesn't work. You can have an important discussion about why rhythms need to line up. And there's so many other ways you can go. Now, if you want to do that type of lesson, that's cool. I think that that's great. But the idea of trying to actively make music, our wired connections are not all coming at the same rates of speed. It is what it is. And this podcast is a perfect example. If there's any lag, that means that something is happening where I froze for a minute. Oh, okay, that type of stuff happens. So I hope that this has been helpful, that it's been educational. I appreciate you taking the time. If you are tuning in live tonight or you're watching it after the fact, as always, I appreciate it. And these types of episodes are created because of you and because of your desire to see such a thing and for me to speak on the topic. And like I said, I could have waited till next week. I opted to do this immediately. And I knew on a Friday night, a lot of people were going to be out. I do hope if you're out, you are being safe, you're being responsible. And I hope that you and most incredible conversation earlier today with someone who is an absolute gem, just a wonderful, a beautiful human being. And person is I'll just say a little bit older than me, and she really appreciated the phone call. I could hear it in her voice. I had the sense that she hadn't really talked to many, if any, people throughout the day, and it really made her day just to hear me and just to hear someone's voice who is being caring and being compassionate. So I urge you to do that. And it's something that I always do. I always reach out to people and I always want to know that they're doing okay. So hopefully that's another lesson that we can all learn from this. With that, I hope that you all are doing well. Continue this conversation. We will see. But with that, I have one final word as always. Peace.